Hello and welcome. Today is going to be another serious Boberius episode because I'm at a little bit of an impasse. The comments on my Navy video have not necessarily faded out of my head yet, and it makes it very difficult to try and concentrate on telling the story of Dark Souls when I'm constantly feeling as if I have to rebuke people who are coming in to debate rather than play Dark Souls. Someone in the last video said that I play victim because they were upset that I didn't pick their comment for a video. Well, I'm sorry. When I look through all my comments, you know what I see? I go back to delete the bad comments, and then I see who else but Petra fighting on my behalf. Or I think Scapionomics was in one of them, and honestly, it warms my heart. Thank you all so much for coming to my defense. For me, it's been a lot to adjust to in terms of getting comments because I kind of keep to myself. I try and stay out of the way. But I have a really unique experience, I feel. That's not a feeling I get in my day-to-day life. In my day-to-day life, I get to feel like an employee. In my day-to-day life, I get to feel like a student. I never get to feel as if I know what I'm doing, at least at this point in my life. And it's wild because I'm coming from a point where I did have that. And there's a vast difference between what respect the world paid me before I came out and the respect the world pays me now. And I'm still trying to reconcile my emotions about the whole thing, and my opinions are pretty polarized at the moment with the political landscape of the day. So I want to share a story about a community I used to belong to, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, I'm not going to do what a lot of people do and talk about how their beliefs are this or that. What I'm looking to do is share my experiences as someone who converted to the Church of Latter-day Saints, as well as someone who stepped away from the Church of Latter-day Saints. Additionally, we'll have a cool little epilogue where that part of my life echoes throughout the rest of it because it's a nice community. And I think it's really wholesome whenever I meet people who are of that faith. I won't talk too much about when I converted to Mormonism because I don't hold the same beliefs at this time, but they offered a lot of answers to me that satisfied the questions I had in my life at that junction where I was probably 15 or 16. And being a member of the church was really fun. I met a lot of nice people. I went down to Utah for a summer trip. I think they were having a seminary week. And the girl I was seeing at the time, her family offered to bring me with her. And it was incredible. Learned a lot about religion. And for some of you who don't know, the Church of Latter-day Saints is the same thing as Christianity in that they read the Old and New Testament. They just also have the Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants, as well as the belief that there is a living prophet on earth to continue interpreting the Word of God for man. Now, I know for some people that's a bit of a deal breaker, but for me, I found comfort in the idea that, oh, hey, God isn't someone who just made the universe and pieced out. When I stepped away from the church, I had been a member for about a year. I had been baptized. It was a wonderful experience, by the way. The thing that made me step away is because, well, the Mormon church is a big advocate for family togetherness, but I don't come from a family that is together. I come from a family that is... my parents divorced when I was incredibly young. Please don't feel bad for me. I don't remember it. And later in life, I actually got ordained as a minister and performed the wedding for my mom to her wife and my dad to his wife. So happy endings all around. But while I was Mormon, I had trouble reconciling the fact that I was being told that family is to be upheld to this highest form of love that we get to experience, and the fact that my family didn't represent the moral uprightness that Mormonism declared that it should. In more simple terms, I could not condemn my mother for her sexuality, and that is what made me leave the church, because the idea that family is supposed to always be there for family, but I'm going to believe something that allows my mom to go to a different afterlife than me doesn't feel right to me. And I don't know if you've seen the Twilight Zone episode, but there's the episode where the guy's walking past the gates and he's trying to go into heaven, and then he goes into the gate and the guy's like, no dogs allowed. And he's like, oh, well, if I can't bring my dog, I'll keep walking. And he fucking walks down to the other place, and they're like, yep, this is actually heaven. That's a guy looking for wayward souls. Remember, all dogs are welcome in heaven. That's my memory of the Twilight Zone episode. Please don't quote me on it. But that was sort of the thought process I had, is what kind of person would I be to condemn my mom to an afterlife that doesn't include peace and comfort? So I stepped away from the church, and I had a discussion with the bishop at the end of my time with the church about why I felt the need to step away. It's not because I didn't agree with the beliefs or anything. It's because in practicing the religion, I felt as if it brought me further away from my family, and I couldn't do that to myself. It was too against the things that are foundational to what I believe. So I left the church. It was pretty awesome after I left the church, because that summer, my Sunday school teacher reached out and let me know her husband had started a computer repair shop and was looking for some bright young kid to take under his wing and teach everything he knows about computers. And so that was my first job at the age of 16. I might talk about that someday. I had a wonderful time, and I am so sorry, Mr. Brinkerhoff, if you ever happen to across this video. I had no idea that screw was going to hit that wire and short out the entire board of that computer. The secondary epilogue, though, is when 2012 came around, I was getting pretty involved politically. There was the presidential primary for the Republican Party, and I had a candidate that I really liked around the time. Now, if you'll remember back then, there were about 3 candidates everyone was looking at: Newt Gingrich, Rick Santorum, and then the Latter-day Saint, Mitt Romney. Well, my precinct was full of people with a population who wanted Mitt Romney to represent them, and rightfully so. I mean, of course you want someone with the same beliefs as you to represent you politically. But I'm in that precinct, and I wanted to be a delegate, and I went in, and I was there for the candidate who happened to be a dark horse libertarian running on the Republican ticket, Ron Paul 2012. In my sort of white male privilege phase, I thought libertarian was the best economic system for everyone. But believe it or not, Republicans, social conservative movements may sound good on paper, but in practice, they just never work out. If you want a book recommendation to learn more about it, I recommend you check out Les Miserables. Actually, you don't even have to read the book. Just watch the 2012 musical. It's so good. So good. When Gavroche is at the barricade, oh, so good. But there I was, the lone Ron Paul delegate in the sea of Mitt Romney delegates, and I was not deterred, because something in me just felt like I left the church on good terms. These people know I'm a good person. They see I'm not pulling any tricks or fast ones. And everyone in the church stopped for a moment and looked to one member of the church in particular that was a member of my precinct, who happened to be the very bishop that I had talked to when I left the church. And so his eyes met mine, and I don't know if that moment lasted for a second or 10,000 years, but I feel as if in my mind it flashed all the memories of the good times we had together, and then the bitterness of our departure from each other, and like the things he had taught me in being a religious leader for me, and the sort of comfort he had provided for me. And at a certain point, while our eyes were meeting, he nodded his head and then raised his hand, yay. And I was voted from my precinct to go and represent us at the county convention, which was an absolute blast. Ron Paul delegates actually got blank slated, again, from all the other candidates' delegates. So I didn't go there for very long. But it was a wonderful experience to get to learn about how politics operates in this world. And I definitely learned a lot. I think the thing I learned the most, though, is that just because you don't believe the same thing as someone else doesn't mean you can't respect them. It doesn't mean you can't let them be. It doesn't mean you can't look at them and say, you know, we are both going through this experience on the earth together. And let's not make it harder than it has to be. And so I just wanted to share that story because recently I've been going through some stuff in my personal life. I'm working to recover before I go into the next Dark Souls video. I just really want to be on my A game when I do that video for you, and it's hard to feel like I'm on my A game when I'm on the defensive. So I'll be back, and I'll be stickier than ever. Thanks for stopping by. Your comments are all so nice, and I really appreciate your support. So I'll see you in a little bit. Bye.